is a Nissan Pathfinder. And if you squint a little bit at any angle, it's a Nissan Pathfinder, but it has wood. Fake wood, of course, and it has piano black surfaces, and it has soft touches, and it has a higher list of standard features than you would get from your Nissan Pathfinder. Unless you got a full-spec Nissan Pathfinder, it was almost the same. They just had badges to make up for the fact that there was a better vehicle you were in. And I love them for that. I really enjoy this generation of SUVs because they've made normal SUVs nicer. And who wouldn't want that? But let's not talk about why I like these so much right now. First, let's talk about what this was the time it was released. The early 2000s, that kind of angsty era where we went, wow, technology's really cool. How do we put that in cars? Lincoln was quite an old brand. Cadillac hadn't quite snorted enough cocaine to figure out that the grille on the front of the Escalade should be this big. And so really the Infiniti was one of the few options left. They were just a good-looking SUV. They didn't really have that much screaming about themselves, but they did have a lot going for them, just being bespoke kind of style. SUVs in the early 2000s started to fill in both the school run and the office parking space. The Infiniti just happened to manage to get a good balance of stylish and practical. Infiniti was so sure of their prospective market that they thought to themselves, a businessman is nowhere without his wallet and an attractive man is nowhere with a key bulge. I feel like whoever owned an Infiniti was a devoted family man who would work long days throughout the week and would go home and be the husband at night and would never forget date night. He would just sometimes take the secretary. What does it actually drive like? I mean, early 2000s, they weren't too worried about SUVs and how they handled, so what does it drive like now? The world's greatest luxury SUV is nothing without suspension. And unlike nowadays where you could use magnetic ride control or you could use some sort of stability and progressive springs that you would have now, back then to make the Pathfinder ride like a luxury SUV, they made it soft. They didn't make it good, they made it soft. So what you got is a vehicle that had really soft suspension, and it was aggressively soft. Every single time you put 2 or 3 people in the back seat, it would bottom out, and you'd go around corners and you'd hit a swoop in the road and it'd bottom out. And it didn't really feel like it was that controlled of a vehicle to drive. So there were shortcomings to this for sure. And then it also drives like any early 2000s SUV. They're a lot top heavier than they are now if you compare it to a new vehicle. There's more body roll and there's more height and sensation of height than you get with a newer vehicle. So where does that put the QX4 today? Well, with 240 horsepower, it's sitting at about 1.8 liter turbo territory. It requires premium gasoline to get that 240 horsepower and doesn't like it if you don't put it in it. You're really not going to be sitting in a vehicle you want to use every day because for the practicality and the size of it, you may as well get something like a new Escape. For a daily driver, they're kind of pointless. With a live rear axle and a proper low-range four-wheel drive transfer case, the Infiniti QX4 is not an all-wheel drive underpinning SUV, it's a proper 4x4. And with all of the attachments that you can get for a Nissan Pathfinder bolting directly to the QX4, you can solve that soft rear suspension right away by buying a couple of shocks and springs off of a Pathfinder and get yourself onto the trail in a rough and ready to go 4x4 with nice leather seats, a comfortable interior, and a really bespoke place that is just as cheap as the Pathfinder you'd be shopping for anyways. This review wasn't about the Infiniti so much as that beautiful period for about 5 to 10 years where SUVs were based off of pickup trucks and the luxury versions were based off of those. You get these rugged body-on-frame designs that you can make off-roaders. And of course at this point, because they've depreciated to the same price, why wouldn't you get this one? So it really doesn't matter if it's the Lexus LX450, the Nissan, or the Cadillac Escalade based on the Tahoe. At this point, make yourself an off-roader using one of these, and you'll be far more comfortable when you wake up camping and it's snowing, because we've all woken up camping and it's snowing. You can turn on the heated seat and head home. Thank you very, very much again for watching 200 Degrees, and we'll see you on the next episode.